example, and if you don't, then I think people then shy away from the environmental movement. There's always an exemption for government, and to me, government should be leading the way.
You said a minute ago, Mayor, that you can't scare people into action. And I know, and now you're talking about the leading by example. You're also talking about incentivizing the action you want, particularly by business with your green permitting as an example. I'm curious, I mean, in both of your cases, it's not easy to sell taxpayers on public investment. I mean, it's always hard to sell people on the idea that they need to pay more for government and for public facilities. How do you do it?
Well, you have to be careful because there's a lot of waste, inefficiency, and corruption in government. There is. I mean, that's both in the public and private sector. So you have to think outside the box. So we start leasing public assets. We took our garages. You start looking at government. Why are we in these businesses? We know nothing about garages. So why don't we go to the private sector and start outsourcing? So we outsourced. We had a Skyway. It was a toll road. We leased that for about $1.5 billion. We leased our garages, parking meters, things like that. We should get out of the business. What is government doing in all these businesses? The private sector can manage much better than government. I firmly believe that. And so that we start outsourcing. And so we start leasing assets. And if every city, county, state, and the federal government start leasing assets, you would have more money for infrastructure, wouldn't increase one tax, you'll never have to go into debt. But again, you have to think outside the box, but government stays within the box. They can't look outside the box, and that's why CEOs for cities are so important, that you're bringing people in from the private sector, talking about issues in a completely different way, not in a governmental way, but more from the citizens' way of looking at issues. And I think the problem with government, you become too insular, too bureaucratic, too many laws, rules, and regulations. You build bureaucracy in each department. One department doesn't talk to the other.
Right.
You can see that in Washington, D.C. No one knows anything about AIG, but someone knew about it, but they can't find the person who did it. But welcome to, it doesn't matter if Democrats or Republicans, I just want to tell you that. That's how government is in Washington, D.C. My viewpoint is you have to think outside the box, especially today in our financial conditions where you can't keep taxing people. You can't tell people you have to pay more and more, where government has to live within a budget. The federal government doesn't have to live within a budget. They can, they're spending, they're going to spend as much as they want because they can print money. But you have to balance your budget. So last year, we have a 4-year budget we're looking at, 09, 10, 11, and 12. And so we have a rainy day fund of $200–300 million. But we're cutting back employees. We're laying off employees. We're cutting back overtime expenditures. We're not hiring people. Everybody says, hire more fire and police. Yeah, sure. But how are you going to pay for it? If people are getting laid off, if they're foreclosure, you just can't live in a way that you're going to live in the future by basically going in debt. And cities can't go in debt. Only the federal government goes in debt.
Where's the tipping point, though? Is there some place where you fear we cut back too much and then the city becomes not clean or unsafe? Or
city's clean is up to the people. It's not just up to government to clean the city. It's up to people to take responsibility. It's up to people who have block clubs, community organizations, churches, businesses. It isn't the city to 24 hours, 7 days a week. Community policing is important. Isn't the police going to solve a crime? It's the community is going to solve crime. You have to basically empower communities to take responsibility. They can't believe that government's going to do everything for them. You can only do so much. It's like education. If a parent or parents are not involved with their children's education, you can only do so much, because you only have them in for 30 or 35 hours a week. It's really up to people taking responsibility, and that's one thing we've done. We have a lot of block clubs, community organizations, and telling people you can clean your own block. You can do things for your own community, your own block. It isn't up to government constantly, and I think that's what the problem, I think, in America. Everybody's looking to government to solve all these issues, and I tell you, don't look towards the government to solve these issues, because how did we get into this thing? So that's, I mean, let's be realistic. It's just like the post office. I mean,